Okay, okay. Go ahead and click your OKs. I hope that doesn't disrupt anything. Thank you for the reminder too, because I totally forgot. Okay, you guys ready? All right. So first, I just want to thank everyone for inviting us today to talk about these new benefits flowing from the Compact Amendments Act and the Compact Impact Fairness Act. And I know some of you already know about this and are already probably signing people up. But since the implementation of a lot of some of these benefits is still ongoing and it's a little clunky right now, we'll really need to work together to ensure access to these additional benefits. And we really appreciate all of the collaboration. Okay, so my plan is to share an overview about the compacts and how we got here. And then, yeah, so how we got to this moment of amending the compacts to include these benefits that we lost after 1996. And please, if others have more information to share along the way, feel free to jump in. I am going to click on my PowerPoint and click start. Okay. I hope that's working. Of course, now I can't see my PowerPoint. Hang on one second. Let me just try to scoot things over a little bit. And then tell me if anything gets weird during the presentation. Like, does anyone find themselves in this picture? Oh my gosh, this picture's 10 years old already. Okay. I think most of you, hopefully some of you may know me. I can't see who's in the room, but I'm Dina Scheck, and I am the director of the Medical Legal Partnership for Children. Some of you may know and work with Fernando Cosia, who's our KKV staff attorney. And you probably know Deja, who's on this call. And we have a student this summer, Sophia, who's also on this call. Super excited to present with you again today. So I wanted to get us started by sharing a little bit of background about, yay, the map. So I'm going to give a 3-minute tour of the political history of the Micronesian region and the Compacts of Free Association. And sorry, I know there's already experts in the room and people who are living this compact, including all of us. So apologies for the review, but I just wanted to make sure we kind of thought about these current benefits in the context of this whole history. So if anyone went to FESPAC, we heard a lot about the regions because everything was kind of organized around Micronesia, Melanesia, and Polynesia. So just wanted to orient us to where we are. And oh, okay. And then again, I want to, sorry, let me see if this works. Reminder about the colonial history of the region and the many, many years of colonial rule under Spain, Germany, Japan, and then the trust territories of the Pacific Islands. I think it's sort of a point in time after World War II where a lot of us kind of came to understand how this region became related to the US through the Compacts of Free Association. So as we know, sorry, in the 80s, as the UN trust territories were coming to a close in the 60s and 70s, the islands who were under the trust territories, so these are all the kind of, I will say, the independent islands that were under the trust territories, had to decide sort of what their next political status was going to be. And as many of us know, the Republic of the Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia, and the Republic of Palau became independent nations with their own very beautiful constitutions, but with a relationship with the US that we now come to know as COFA, the Compacts of Free Association. The other regions, CNMI and Guam, are US territories. And then, as hopefully some folks got to see at FESPAC, Nauru and Kiribati are independent nations, but also have some relationships internationally. But I just wanted to help orient us to what we're talking about. And then again, as most people know, the compacts, the one that FSM is under, it was started in 1986, renewed in 2003. we just signed what we sometimes people call Compact 3. So 2024 it was signed, but renegotiated in 2023. And again, migration provisions, people can lawfully work and establish residency indefinitely. In exchange, the US gets exclusive military rights. And we know about things like the military facilities in the Marshall Islands. I know this is all very quick background, but I just wanted to, again, ground us in the history. And the goal of these compacts were really to secure self-government, assure national security rights, and advance economic self-sufficiency. So those goals are embedded in the agreements that we have. Okay, so now I'm jumping ahead, right? If folks remember in 2009, and if I was in the room with you, I'd be like, who remembers this? Hawaii cut off Medicaid-like benefits that had been funded by the state. So, and this happened in, well, the letter that we had from one of our clients was end of August 2009. And if you look at the language, I know it's a little small here, but I put it in the text there, that they said, Hawaii's economy has slowed. The state must decrease spending. The health benefits you are receiving from DHS will end at the end of the month. Sorry, the date that it was going to end was end of the month. They literally had weeks to plan for this. So as folks might remember, this was a huge crisis for us because they were moving people to what they were calling Basic Health Hawaii, BHH. And it was a huge cut to the healthcare benefits they were receiving under Medicaid-like benefits. So why did this happen? This happened because of this 1996, what we often call the Welfare Reform Act, but the proper title of it is the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. PRO-R, sometimes we call it, but I'll just be calling it the Welfare Reform Act. And within this Welfare Reform Act, they actually did a lot to limit the kinds of benefits that immigrants would receive, immigrants and migrants would receive. And so they had these categories of things like aliens who are not qualified aliens, are ineligible for public federal benefits. And a lot of the benefits that were lost included things like Medicaid, food stamps, TANF, welfare service, Social Security, and some federal housing programs. And what the law looked like in 1996, I mean, this is really, the reason I'm going to this, because I'm a lawyer and I'm nerdy, but is to look at the language of who was included and who was excluded, right? So section 401 had aliens who are not qualified aliens, ineligible. Section 402 described limited eligibility for a certain, of qualified aliens for certain. And so the language was about certain exemptions, refugees and asylees could get benefits, certain permanent residents, people with workers. My point here is that COFA status was just forgotten. It was excluded because it was forgotten in this law. They had carved out a lot of details about who was eligible and ineligible, but COFA status was just ignored and therefore excluded from these federal benefits. And that's a theme that we have seen a lot over the years, that COFA status is just left out, forgotten, or misused. So that's the point that I want to make here, is that because of this law in 1996, COFA residents were excluded. Hawaii kept them on Medicaid-like benefits. So they were getting MedQuest under state funds, not federal funds. And then it was in 2009 when those letters came out that they were cut from the state-funded benefits. So this point, though, of being excluded from the law because they were forgotten comes up a lot. The Real ID Act, which was passed in 2005, and this is the driver's license bill that all of our driver's license and state IDs have to have that little gold star. The implementation of this keeps getting delayed. In fact, I think this is the year they're saying for real this time, you absolutely can't get on an airplane unless you have one of the, or something like that, unless you have one of these gold star IDs. If you look at this language, from 2005, they say who qualifies: United States, District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, CNMI, and the Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands. So they're using terminology from decades past and didn't even understand the other status that they might include, which would have been the Compact Free Association. So this, as some of you remember, caused all kinds of problems in 2018 and a little bit early when they were trying to switch to the Gold Star driver's licenses. And so we had to fight to get this amended. And in the meantime, we're doing all these, workarounds, but we had to fight to get this amended. Fortunately, in December of 2018, this Real ID Act was amended. And here you can see the language. They strike Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands because that doesn't exist. And they had to add these specific citizens of RMI, FSM, and Palau. So if you think about it, amending a federal law is not an easy task. And so it took a lot of time and energy. Again, look, the Real ID Act was passed in 2005. The amendment came in 2018. So this is how slowly the wheels churn often when there are mistakes and oversights like this. A local example, Hawaii, this is the Hawaii law. There was a law around who could sit on boards and commissions in Hawaii. And one of the requirements was a citizenship and residency requirement. And they said that you would have to be citizen, nationals, or permanent resident aliens of the US. So you don't have to be a US citizen in order to sit on a Hawaii board or commission, but you do have to be one of these, you'd have to be one of these things, right? A national or permanent resident alien. But what that did was that excluded people like Tina Takashi and Joachim Peter, who were trying to sit on certain boards and commissions. And at the time we figured this out, it was one of our friends, the late Jojo Peter, had been appointed by the governor to sit on the Civil Rights Commission in Hawaii. And we found out about this when the governor suddenly withdrew his nomination of Jojo, and we didn't know why. Sorry, I'm gonna mute folks. I don't know who we're hearing. And so what happened was we had to work, a lot of us worked behind the scenes to fix this language and get something amended within our state legislation to expand the definition of who could sit. So citizens, nationals, permanent resident aliens, or anyone eligible under federal law for unrestricted employment in the US. And that would include COFA status. So I just want to point out the very real life consequences that these oversights in the law, people are forgotten in the law, in the legal definitions, and it almost excluded our friend Jojo from sitting on the Civil Rights Commission, which is such an important area that we really needed voices. So again, just to point out how important the language of these laws are. So going back to where we're at now with the,
Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure who to mute. Okay. Where we're at in 2000, where we were at in 2009 when these cuts happened because of this 1996 law that forgot about COFA status. So as many of you know, we had a very long advocacy effort. KKV was really central to this. We partnered a lot with our Micronesian community leaders and advocates, and worked a lot with Senator Hirono's office to really make the case that this is in some ways such a weird small oversight in the original law that really needed to be fixed, and the huge impact that it would have. Ultimately, there was a very long struggle, and I have this overview. So 2009, when the cuts happened, there were these really long lawsuits. Deja was actually one of the early lawyers back in I think you graduated in 2010 and you immediately were working on these cases. To argue that they should be included, we had success in the local courts. We had a huge loss in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And as you can see here, this went on for years. It took 2 years to get an appeal heard in the circuit court, Ninth Circuit Court. It took another almost 2 years just to get a decision, which is rather unusual. And then after that, because it had taken so long, a lot of the state insurance matters changed. And so people were moved to the federal marketplace. If people remember, Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act is where people were able to access health insurance. And so there's a huge move to get people signed up. And communities did a lot of work. All of us together, some of you on this call, worked really hard to make sure people had insurance. I showed this slide because I used to use these all the time to talk about the fight for Medicaid restoration. But now we don't have to worry about that fight anymore, because in December of 2020, Medicaid benefits were restored. And if folks remember how huge that was, it was really Senator Hirono year after year trying to work on getting Medicaid restored, and finally being able to get it through a healthcare bill that came out of the pandemic. And just a really, really huge, momentous thing to undo that wrong from 1996. Okay. And I know I'm repeating a lot of this because I want us to share where we're at now. So in March of this year, the new Compact Amendments Act was signed. So we sometimes say COFA 3, the third iteration of this law, of this treaty. And then Senator Hirono also had the wisdom to advocate for and include the Compact Impact Fairness Act, which added additional benefits to those laws. So what these laws did was one of the provisions of the law was it basically added back COFA status into the 1996 bill to say that they are eligible for all of those federal benefits. So it was an oversight in the beginning, but she was able to say very clearly, if you are here under COFA status, you are eligible for these benefits. So, all praise to Senator Hirono for pushing this through, but also decades of advocacy, really grassroots advocacy that helped make this happen. And I just want to show you the language of how that worked is this Welfare Reform Act had to be amended. So they had to reach all the way back to this 1996 bill to amend the language. I just want to pause and take a moment here to really appreciate all the years of community organizing that so many of us have done together, and that KKV has played a really critical role in getting to this point. Things like COFA Can, this group that was started by Jojo Peter and Dr. Sheldon Ricklin and Dr. Wilfred Alec, the All Mike basketball tournaments that our friend Inocenta helped organize from the very beginning, and folks from Micronesian Health Advisory Coalition, in part to really raise money for the lawsuit that eventually happened, and to raise awareness and advocacy around the importance of healthcare. There's a photo here from what is now Roots Cafe of Senator Hirono meeting with, there's David Duroff sitting next to her, and meeting with members of the Micronesian community to talk about how important this was. And a lot of this organizing that happened over many, many years. Healthcare signups when we switched to the ACA insurance. I'm quite proud of having hosted events at the law school to educate people about these changes along the way over many, many years. And even national organizing, convening people from all different states, from Arkansas and Texas and Arizona and California and Oregon, organizing them here in Hawaii. This was back in 2017 to really strengthen our call for these federal fixes. Really, really exciting work. So back to our shining moment, as this headline says, of getting these federal fix for Medicaid. And then now, moving forward to today, so what about the rest of those benefits? She got Medicaid restored, but there were still a lot of other benefits that were lost in that 1996 bill. So recently, there was a there were headlines about this huge appropriations bill that averted a federal shutdown. So if you look at that headline on that, Biden signs final bill to fund the government ending shutdown fears. So you might see this in the news sometimes. It was signed into law on March 9th of 2024, so just a few months ago. And within this huge bill, this bill is literally 1,000, I think, pages long. You'll find within this bill the Compact of Free Association Amendments Act, which is essentially the Compact Renegotiations, COFA 3, and also the Compact Impact Fairness Act language. And I'll just add this. Usually the treaties are standalone treaties that Congress will approve and the president will sign. But because Congress is kind of a mess right now, the only way to get this through was to package it within this giant Appropriations Act. So in order to look, I can send you the link, but it's literally 1,000 pages long. And I think on page 704, you'll find the language of the actual compacts. So you can see within the bill here, the title is Compact of Free Association Amendments Act of 2024. There's also this Compact Impact Fairness language here. And what this one does is it amends, again, that Welfare Reform Act from 1996. So this is the newest fix. It pretty much, Senator Hirono's staff was brilliant. They pretty much fixed everything. They said, look, all those other federal benefits that they were previously excluded from, they are now eligible for. So this includes, things like FEMA, SNAP, SSI benefits, what else did I forget? TANF benefits. And sorry for this really long, nerdy history, but I just wanted to show both how important all this community advocacy, sharing stories matters in keeping this issue alive and coming to this point of a federal fix, but also how frustrating it is that the language we use in these laws often overlooks COFA status, and then the decades of hardship from being excluded from something that they were never intended to be excluded from, I would argue, what impact that has. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so where are we now? Now we're in the process of getting these benefits restored. Technically, because the bill was signed on March 9th, these laws go into effect pretty much immediately. People are eligible. The challenge now is implementation. So states and local offices that are implementing these new benefits often are waiting for federal guidance, federal guidelines. And what that means is basically your federal agency telling you, here's how you now make them eligible. Here's the checkbox you use on this form to make them eligible. Here's how you process these, new categories and stuff. They're often waiting for that. So that's where we're kind of in this point of figuring out who's ready to go and how do we move forward from here. I would direct you to, and I shared these by email, and the only way I'm seeing this one, this is from the FSM Embassy. I think they've been putting out really good updated information about the new benefits. So for example, this is an excerpt from this 2-pager. I've only ever seen it on Facebook. So if you're interested, I would encourage you to follow the FSM Embassy on Facebook. I think it's where they're putting out a lot of their information. So for example, they have it broken down here, education programs, some certain provisions that are now more wide open for especially FSM citizens. But the big thing here is that public universities in the US and territories now require in-state tuition for anyone who has COFA status. So that's huge. I'll just say it again. The Department of Education actually put out a statement that starting July 1st for the next school year, for all colleges and universities, you should be able to get in-state tuition. This is huge. We're going to keep an eye on it. I know UH has been really good about proactively trying to identify all of their students who are eligible and then moving forward, making announcements about eligibility for in-state tuition. So that's a huge one. And again, the Compact Impact Fairness Act includes now eligibility for SNAPs, food stamps, TANF, welfare for families, supplemental security income, SSI, financial assistance from FEMA, and then other programs as we may become aware of additional federal programs that people are eligible for, they left the door open in this new law to make sure that they will qualify. Okay. Another big one is veteran services. So this is specific to FSM, I think. So FSM veterans who go back to their home country, home states, previously would not be able to get VA funded health care unless they were to travel to Guam or Hawaii or somewhere on the continental US. So you would have to go to like a VA hospital and travel on your own. But now they're opening up eligibility for VA healthcare services while you are still in your home states, your home nation. So this is one of those areas that they're still working out the details because it's such a huge shift for VA healthcare, but it's really significant. That means we're hoping that people will have access to telehealth, even prescription, medications, also possibly transportation. So if they do need to go to Guam or Hawaii or wherever, that the VA will help pay for that and arrange it. So it's a huge change for folks, for veterans. So keep an eye on that. I think that's still unfolding. Okay, so this is a good resource. I would encourage us to, use this as a good summary of the benefits. The FSM Embassy, a month after their first announcement, published a one-pager. They're updating. Sorry, it's kind of small, but I emailed it out. They're sending out updates as the different agencies kind of post their different updates. They're gonna put them out. So I've been really appreciative of the FSM Embassy for putting these things out. So I'm gonna keep saying these just so that we all know what the new benefits are. So FEMA, as folks may know, Maui wildfire victims, and I know there were a lot of Pohnpeian and Marshallese families, especially, who were victims of the wildfire, were only eligible for kind of a small initial FEMA benefit, but were not eligible for the full supports. They are now eligible. FEMA opened up a period from April 1st. It's closed now, May 31st. I've heard that there weren't very many people who were newly signed up during that period, but we also heard that FEMA is saying how do I say this? That there is an appeals process even after May 31st. So if we know people who should have gotten FEMA benefits from the wildfires, but were not able to apply earlier because of the limitations, they should still try to do some kind of an appeal and say and make the argument that they were unable to finish the application because of whatever, access, denial, language access, whatever happened, and try to get their foot in the door with FEMA. So even though this official application period is over for COFA status residents, I would argue that we should still try to get folks connected to FEMA. I also want to point out that this means that COFA status residents who had a loved one who died from COVID can now apply for funeral benefits. And I think it's up to $9,000 in funeral benefits. And this is an ongoing program. It goes on for a whole nother year. And it's eligible for anyone whose loved one passed away from COVID. And so if they have any receipts from the funeral expenses, they can ask FEMA for payment for a funeral benefit. I talked a little about the VA healthcare for FSM citizens, the in-state tuition and education, and then of course, again, SNAP, TANF, SSI, and other programs with details still pending on some of these programs. But I did want to point out, I put this reminder here, the tip, we don't want to wait. We want to help people apply now. I know things like, we've heard anecdotally from SSI and TANF that it's been hit or miss, that people have applied and been denied because of their status, but that there are some who are getting interviews to move forward. So it feels a little bit hit or miss right now, but it's really on the agencies to respond because we believe they are eligible since March 9th. So we should help them apply to start that date of benefits they might get. And I'm going to ask Dave to talk a little more about this in a minute. But don't forget also COFA migrants eligible for Medicaid since December 2020. I know everyone at KKV already knows this. Also, just a reminder, because it comes up a lot, I-94 documents are available online indefinitely. There's no more, they're not removing them anymore from the website. They also are processing early I-94s since before they were starting to make them electronic. And this is a huge, we couldn't believe when they announced this a few years ago, that not only are all the electronic ones available, but they are actually manually, or I don't know, maybe it's AI, processing old I-94s, like even the handwritten. So if, when in doubt, check the cbp.gov website, check for the I-94s for somebody. Yes, you have to have the passport number of the entering when they entered. So you might have to call the consul general's offices and get they should all be able to give the passport numbers of when they, an old passport number to enter in. Filios, who is our community advocate and all around brilliant policy thinker, he actually is advocating now to see if CBP can use social security numbers as an alternative to get access to the I-94s. We know that it's possible if you contact CBP directly through other means that they should be able to access. But if anyone has problems getting an I-94 off of the website, always check the website first. If there's still problems, you just contact Senator Hirono's office. They have a staffer who's dedicated to helping people navigate this when they have problems. All the congressional offices have sort of like a client services staffer who will help with these things. But we've found that Senator Hirono's office has been really, really great and responsive. So that's a pro tip for I-94s, which I know folks probably already know and use. Just another reminder, because it's come up a lot in other forums, that the compacts do not have a path to US citizenship. Nothing about that has changed in the COFA 3 agreement. Even though FSM did recently pass on their end the right for dual citizenship, but that's very separate from these compacts as negotiated with the US. And then just a last reminder that about funeral benefits for FEMA I wanted to add. And then I wanted to share that Deja designed these really wonderful infographics for us that we encourage you to share. And I shared them as a PDF that are just gonna share, really quickly explain to people that there are these new benefits. This is a really good overview of what the benefits are, just as a reminder to us. And then a brief explanation of what the SSI benefits are and who might be eligible. TANF benefits and SNAP benefits have the same application. So you just go to one place. Oh, you folks probably know this. Click on both benefits because COFA status residents here are eligible for both, and see what happens, right? And then we also have on our infographics a reminder of some of the other benefits. And I'm gonna scroll back to the overview slide and see if Deja has anything that I missed or you want to add or emphasize along the way.
Hey everyone, thank you, Dina. I was just going to add, and I think some of it is just we're depending on you folks. You are the frontline staff who most of the time are helping people with these applications. We've already got, I know I've gotten through Fernando and some of your team, maybe some people who have already gotten denials and then have appealed those denials. And some folks looking to us for support in how to work forward through these denials and what to do. So I thought I would kind of share the conversations that we have had with Department of Human Services and where they're coming from. And then there's also us as advocates where we're at. So I will share this. I do appreciate some of what DHS is saying, particularly those who for SNAP. So even though DHS processes both SNAP and TANF financial assistance or GA on the same application, the federal government gives them two pots of monies. The SNAP coming from Department of Ag, and then the TANF coming from Child and Family Services. So Child and Family Services for TANF have already issued guidance that was very general. And I guess DHS is able to move forward with those TANF guidelines because they're less strict. But for SNAP, the federal guidelines are super, super strict about SNAP. In fact, they have timeliness guidelines on how timely an application needs to be done for someone who is homeless, 15 days, 45 days. I'm sure you folks know these. But Hawaii is under a corrective action plan in where they're almost going to risk losing federal funding. One, because they're not processing applications timely enough for regular folks, which you guys know. And two, because their error rate is so high. They're making too many errors on the applications. So DHS has told us, we don't want people submitting applications because we're just going to deny them anyway for SNAP only, not TANF, for SNAP. We're just going to deny them anyway because our timeliness rate is so bad. We can't just let the applications sit there because our timeliness rate looks bad. So their timeliness rate looks better if they just immediately deny because it looks like they timely process the application. So they've told us they don't want a rush of applications until they get the guidelines because they're trying to focus on their corrective action plan with the feds. Now, I have told them in conversations, well, then you're just going to get a rush when the federal government gets the guidelines. You might as well do it now. You might as well do it on recertifications. They said, we don't have guidance, so we can't process it yet. Now, I know some people have already appealed because I said, we already know people will only get benefits, most likely, not from the date the bill was passed, but the date of application. And so a lot of people are trying to apply as soon as possible. So our suggestion for everybody, listening to what they've said, that they don't want to have a lot of appeals. Our suggestion is people do appeal the benefits denial because then you can keep their case open from the date of application. That said, you don't have to immediately appeal a denial. You have 90 days from when you got the denial for food stamps to appeal that denial. So it's, they've kind of suggested that we don't immediately file appeals. So there's not a ton of people in the appeals line, because then if there's a ton of people in the appeals line, they may not even decide on those appeals until they get the federal government processing. And they've argued, and it is true, us at MLP, we have a couple appeals cases that have nothing to do with COFA that we want going to hearing. And it is true, we don't want a line of COFA citizens in appeal. And so the ones we actually really want to go to hearing don't go to hearing. So I'm saying all that with an understanding of the processing challenges, but our legal opinion is people only get benefits from the day of application. To keep their application open for those benefits, they need to appeal the denial. You have 90 days, which I was shocked it was so long, because usually we don't do appeals that. We do them immediately within 10 days. So people get aid paid pending. But for these, because they're not getting aid, they're asking for new aid, they have 90 days to appeal that. So our suggestion is people get a form ready and appeal that within the 90-day appeals application, hoping that by 90 days, the federal government gives suggestions about what to do. And this is for SNAP only SNAP. For TANF, which we know it's hard, it's the same application, right? People should apply immediately. They should get the TANF benefits. If they're not getting the TANF benefits, they need to appeal immediately. And we're here to represent if they need help, or people can represent themselves. They should be getting TANF financial benefits immediately. So I hope that helps. If you have questions, we're always available to talk story about cases, because again, you folks are seeing most of them, not us. I'm always open for a talk story, chat, email, send some documents. What's going on here? What do you think we should do? So I hope that helps. Yeah.
Thanks, Deja. That was perfect. So I'm gonna maybe stop share so we can try to see folks in the room. Does anyone have any questions? I know I threw a lot of history and law stuff, but the bottom line is new benefits. Let's get people signed up. I'm also gonna put in the chat our, we don't use social media a lot, but we did post Deja's infographics on our Instagram account. And I think we're gonna, I don't know if we posted it on our Facebook account, I'm so bad at social media. We're working on it. But we'll make sure we also probably should circulate these infographics through a KKV MLP alert, if that would help. Okay, sorry, it's hard for me to see who's in the room or if anyone has questions, or if anyone has any additional suggestions or experiences they've had. I know we often learn from folks like Rose, and I know Inan and others have like tons of experience. So is there anything we should have said or added? Questions?
I'll just jump in. I answered in the chat for Rose about whether or not you folks can do the appeal or you want to refer to us to do the appeal letter. I'm fine with you folks filling out the appeal for them, unless you truly you think someone wants that extra time to talk story with us of like, why did I not get my benefits? I should have got them. I should be eligible for. I just don't want us to get, a ton of people, like, a ton meaning like, 15. But if you're going to send us like 4 or 5 people to do the appeal, I'm fine talking story with them about what we've heard so far for the SNAP. Otherwise, I really trust you folks that you know how to do this. So if you want to fill out the appeal letter and then tell them, follow up with us when they get the notice of hearing, let us know. We just know a lot of them are probably going to sit. And what you could do is fill out the appeal letter and tell them you have 90 days to send this in. So send it in whenever you guys feel comfortable. It's not a rush.
And just to emphasize what Deja said, we're sort of hoping that the federal guidelines for SNAP will come out soon. We were told maybe by the end of July at the latest, we were hoping, so that it would happen within the period of the appeals time anyway. So even if somebody applied now, started the clock for the application, got their denial, and they didn't appeal, we're hoping that that window for appeals, that it's all going to get fixed, we hope, before the end of those 90 days anyway. And that we're hoping, because DHS knows people are wrongly getting denial letters, that they would fix it. They're aware of it, so we're hoping they will fix it without us having to do too much. Rose, do you have anything to help us out?
Is there a type of training that the SNAP office staffs go through to like better improve the whole process so that there's not like so much errors or not meeting timely deadlines? Only because I feel like a lot of our applicants who are already receiving like food stamps, like they would go to the KPT office and like they would barely go inside to like talk to somebody face to face. Like a lot of times they're only allowed to like drop in a mail through the door, and it's so like not, like it could be better, I guess. But sometimes people have like just really simple questions and they're kind of getting brushed off, like, yeah, or being told to come back, but.
I'll jump in and say, I think it's terrible. It's beyond terrible. And I think we've been really frustrated. So I can't imagine how frustrated you are in trying to tell people how to just deal with small little things, because it's impossible to get in. So what I have been doing, just my tips for people, because I know it depends on the office who lets people in. So like, for example, I know a bunch of people have been driving to Y&I because Y&I has been having the office open. But then the problem is the person at Y&I is like not their caseworker at their processing center, and then it causes issues, right? What I've been doing with people is I've been using the processing center email. I've been sending in an authorization, the 1465 consent to release information. And I basically write a giant email about all the problems that are going on with this person and what needs to be fixed. It doesn't happen immediately, but then I'll get an email maybe 5 days later that says, okay, we did XYZ. I basically try to tell them and put everything in an email and say, this is what needs to be corrected with the file. So hopefully by the time you see this, it gets there. I have not had luck leaving messages. I've not had luck calling. And I know most people have no luck going down to the office. The other thing I've had luck doing and this is why I said the hearing thing is really annoying, because we have hearings that I need to go through, not for denial of benefits for COFA, but for real things where they've sent people to first to work when they shouldn't, or they should be excused because they have this hospital stay and they're not excusing them. I've just sent in hearings, and I've just sent in a request for hearing, because as soon as they get a request for hearing for the case, they have to look back into it and figure out what's going on. So even like the tiniest manini things that I normally would not do a request for hearing, like I got one from behavioral health. I did a request for hearing for someone who they didn't change their address in time. I sent in a request for hearing for that. DHS resolved the case. It took a week and a half, maybe. They resolved the case. They reissued the benefits. They didn't want to have the hearing. So you can definitely, again, talk story with me on regular food stamp stuff that you guys are just stuck with. The problem is I don't have the best solutions either. My solution is like, send them a giant email with everything. If they don't do something about it within the timeline, especially if someone's losing benefits within the 10-day timeline or a 30-day timeline, send in a request for hearing. Same type of thing to make them do stuff. And I'm totally helpful to talk story with you folks. If you're seeing like certain processing centers always doing these same problems, let us know. I'm willing to take that up to the top because I'm so frustrated with this stuff, and they know the cases I've been working on. And Ashley, our other attorney who's working at KMC, we have so many problems. They know there's big time problems. In particular, if you have issues with first to work, Ashley and I have pressed, because of the egregious problems in some cases, we've pressed to have a meeting with first to work and TANF people. So if you guys have cases you want me to bring up for them, just like the general ideas about them without names, you know, just like, this is what they're doing wrong. These are issues, we're issue spotting that you always do wrong. I will take it to them. I trust you folks. I will take it to them. And if you have specific cases, just, we need to have those consent forms signed by the client. So refer to me if you're just like, this is egregious. There's nothing we can do with them. Just let me know. So, but I feel you, I hear you. I've never seen it so bad. I wish we could do something about it. They're under corrective action plan. They look terrible compared to most states. They keep saying, help us hire people. Oh yeah, we do a year training, but you know, yeah. So sorry to like fan that flame, but I feel you and I hear you, just for the small cases we get.
I have one more question. Did you guys come across, I know just recently there was like, people losing their benefits off of a scam or something, like people were losing their benefits, like they were getting food stamps, and then like they would check their balance and it would be less than what they had expected. Like, was that actually happening, or like, how was it?
I saw it in the news media, but we did not have anyone come to us with that. We've had a couple people come who got less than they expected. And it was just for like procedural errors that they did. Like the person didn't apply the exemption for paying for housing, you know, or someone became homeless and they didn't realize if they didn't have the rental exemption that their food stamps would drop. You know, that's the only ones we've seen recently.
But if you do see those, feel free to let us know if people feel like they were scammed, because my sense from I only saw it on the news also, but my sense was that it was potentially something that happened on the DHS side and that they were trying to restore people. So if people feel like they missed out because of some scam that wasn't their doing, like they went to pay and it wasn't there, you know, maybe it's worth advocating to ask DHS to restore those benefits. I think it's worth looking into. Thank you for raising that though, because I just saw on Facebook from another advocate on Maui that said there was I don't know if it was through Facebook or other emails, that there was some scam on housing, and I saw the picture of it. It looks really real, and it was like, sign up for Section 8, and the flyer looked very much like the flyers we would normally see, but it was a .com address, not a .gov. And so it was like Section 8 affordable.com, and it was a scam. And so be really, really careful. Make sure things say .gov. And I know sometimes the state does create .com addresses that link, but usually when they do that, when you hover over the address or something, it always goes to a .gov. So if you're in doubt, then don't click on it and ask other people to double check it. It's really scary because it's the worst. It's so frustrating. And everybody's getting targeted, and so be really, really careful of that. Yeah. And we're happy to look at stuff too. I think don't forward stuff, but screenshotting stuff is a really good way, because then you're not clicking on anything or forwarding anything. If you screenshot something, we can all take a look at it. We're happy to do that. It's always good to check. And this stuff is looking more and more realistic. So.
I think it's better to go back to paper.
I know.
Paper.
I was thinking that. Yeah.
I wanted to add one other thing. I know you folks don't do as much SSI applications, but COFA folks, so say what you may see more is a mom with a disabled child that was born in the United States, or maybe the mom herself can't work and would like to apply for SSI, and they're denied. Let us know, because SSI is supposed to be open immediately. We've had a couple people talk to us about trying to do those applications. We just haven't seen the follow through because there is that super strict asset test. So if someone has more than $2,000 in their bank account, they're going to be denied. So we've kind of counseled them that, you know, it's not good to make your SSI application when you're saving up for plane tickets or you have more than $2,000 in your bank account. But I'm also open for those kind of referrals and to talk story with you folks on how to make sure we're getting more people, not just COFA, but also the SSI, and how to work on those appeals. So I just wanted to jump in on that as well, to just issue spot with us, because I know you folks are the front line, you see more what goes on.
And the Social Security office is notorious for denials, even when people are eligible. Almost everyone has to appeal their initial cases. So don't be discouraged by denials. Deja's really good at this and can have another look and see whether it's, you know, there might be a way to appeal things. Any other questions or tips or things you've seen?
Sorry, I just have question on the appeal. So, the process. So all we do is fill out the form and send it in, and then that's it on our part until they send a letter to the patient, or?
Yeah, they should send the patient a letter. So what happens is, you know, you send the appeals hearing into this food stamp office. They actually have a separate office, AOAO, like Administrative Appeals Hearing Office. They will send them kind of acknowledgement that we got your request for hearing to appeal your case. Do you want a lawyer? Are you going to appoint one? It could be a friend, it could be a relative, and here's your file and what we have on record about your appeal. And so that's when get us involved is the time, because then we can sign on as their attorney. We can look at the appeal documents and see what's going to happen. I will say this, prior to recently, we never got those letters from the appeals office, because when the food stamp office was looking through the file and the appeal, they would be like, oh no, we made the mistake. We don't want to justify our mistake in front of a hearings officer. Like, so basically a judge. So we're going to withdraw what we did and just offer you the food stamps. It's pretty rare we've had to actually go to the hearing, but it looks like we're going to have to for these kind of cases recently. So I don't know what's going to happen with the COFA cases either, but it's just preserving that deadline so that they get it from the day of application. So some of this is new too. We don't know what they're going to do. I've done appeals before. Fernando has, Ashley's done. We've had to do an appeal in front of the hearings officer. It's like it feels like a court hearing, right? And they make a decision and you present evidence, but it's few and far between, and usually for like mess ups that they want to keep on record. Usually by the time we get involved, like I said, they look at it and say, oh no, we did mess up. Okay. So.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if anyone else has questions, and if we're right at 11:27, if how late you can go. But I also wanted to leave the door open if folks want to share, and also you can email us if there are other topics that you want to hear from us about. We have something, I think, for next week, or I can't remember when, on it's kind of an unusual topic, but it's a Work Now Hawaii speaker who does workforce supports for people with disabilities, including working with young people, which has been, I think, he would probably be really good at. And then I think Fernando's lining up something on workers' rights and Family Medical Leave Act, especially for people who are pregnant or parenting. Yeah, so if there's anything else that you folks would want to hear from us on, let us know. And then also, you know, as we learn more, we'll push it out to you, especially on the SNAP side, because I think those, we're right there. We're just waiting for all the guidelines. And if you hear anything, let us know, and we're happy to come back and just pick up where we left off and keep figuring out how we navigate these benefits. It's going to take a while, but I mean, the eligibility and the access is so exciting and amazing. And we've fought so long and hard for this, that we're excited to keep making sure that people have access. It's just like Medicaid. Just because we got the bill passed doesn't mean it was implemented right away, except for Rose worked magic in Hawaii and got DHS to start immediately. And so I think all of us doing this together is what's going to make our systems better. So thank you, folks.
Just jumping in for those who can't see the chat, I gave my direct phone number. Give me a call, 728-0004. I'll talk story. Even if you're like, Deja, I can't remember, should I do this on the appeal, or I'm having this family or whatever. I really am down to talk story about it. I'm the one who'll be like, hey, I'm too busy, I can't take care of that. Can you help me with this, or that kind of thing? So yes, you can do it. Yes, Rose, email me a copy of the appeal form for sure. Yeah. So especially the SNAP thing is just so out of control at this point. I feel like it's just all hands on deck to try to figure out how we can help people. So yeah.
Wait, Rose, are you asking for what the appeal form should look like? Is there a formal form for TANF appeals?
Yes, there's a form. So I will email it. The TANF appeal form, Rose, the TANF appeal form looks the same as the SNAP appeal form. It's a request for hearing. They just have you mark on it which benefits you want. And I will say they have made me redo an appeal form because I didn't mark the correct box. So they're being really terrible right now. But it's the exact same as the SNAP, but I will send you a copy of that if you want. I'll send it to Dina, or so she can send to all of you folks, so you can have that copy laying around. It's just their request for hearing, and you just click, like, again, everybody knows TANF and SNAP, but on the appeals form, you have to click which benefits you disagree, and you either say financial or food stamps. So it's weird how it doesn't work the same. You don't know, but you can even write in the narrative, I disagree with this, so yeah.
Maybe we can, yeah, we'll work on an MLP alert, and then
yeah, we'll send an alert and send out the appeal form then.
Yeah, that would be good, I think. Yeah, we were meaning to do it, and then every day it felt like there was a little update, a little forward progress, or trying to collect everything, but yeah, we can just keep doing that. That'd be good. Okay, everyone. Thank you all so much. Do you have anything else, or good? Okay. And then I'll try to figure out how to get this video posted on our YouTube channel. We can share it with other folks on your team who might want to watch it if it's helpful. Or you can tell them, oh, just skip all of Dina's history and go to the end with the benefits.
Thank you so much, Dina, Deja, and the MLPT for today's presentation. Looking forward to the next two. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.